I will be performing The Fruit at the Bottom of the Bowl by Ray Bradbury. Bradbury showcases two emotions in this particular piece. William Acton, the main character, is consumed with his jealousy so much that at last he acts on it. Paranoia then eats away at his mind. William Acton rose to his feet. The clock ticked midnight upon the mantel. With a twist of his fingers, he had wiped away the exacting glitter of Donald Huxley's gray eyes, replaced it with the blind dullness of eye, cold and socket. William Acton looked at his own fingers. It was done. He could not change it back. Had anyone heard? He listened. There was no banging of the house door. No voices demanding entrance. The murder was done, and nobody knew. His hands hovered before his eyes. It was not the hands as hands he was interested in, nor the fingers as fingers. Interest only in the tips of the fingers. The clock ticked upon the mantel. He looked at the throat. He looked at the polished floor. He bent slowly and gave the floor a few dabs with the handkerchief. Then he scowled and swabbed the floor. And then he stopped. Then was the moment when he saw the entire house. And as clearly as if it were being repeated word for word, he heard Huxley talking, just the way they had talked only an hour before. Finger on Huxley's doorbell. Huxley's door opening.
"Oh, it's you, Acton. Don't stand out there, you idiot. If you want to talk business, come in through the door. There, into the library." Acton had touched the library door. Some interesting first editions there, Acton. Feel that binding. Acton had touched the books and the library table. And now, squatting on the floor beside Huxley's cold body with the polishing handkerchief in his hands, motionless, he stared at the house, stunned by what he realized and what he saw. He shut his eyes, dropped his head, crushed the polishing handkerchief in his hands, wadding it. Fingerprints were everywhere! Everywhere! A pair of gloves. Before he did one more thing, before he polished another area, he must have a pair of gloves. Acton hurried about the upstairs, using the handkerchief as a bladder. He might scour the entire house, buffing every possible surface where fingerprints might lie, then accidentally touch a wall here. Or there! Thus sealing his own fate with a microscopic whirling symbol. More drawers! Be quiet. Be careful, he told himself. At the bottom of the 85th drawer, he found gloves. He tried them on, held them up, proudly flexed them. They were soft, gray, thick, impregnable. Gloved, William Acton returned to the room and knelt down upon the floor and laboriously began the task of swabbing every widely infested inch of it. Inch by inch, he polished and polished until he could almost see his intent, sweating face. He came to a table and polished it. He came to a bowl of wax fruit, took out the wax fruit and polished them clean, leaving the fruit at the bottom of the bowl unpolished. "I'm sure I didn't touch them." He put them back. He glanced at the doors in the room. Which ones had he used tonight? He couldn't remember. Polished them all then. "That chair you're sitting in, Acton, it's an old Louis XIV piece. Feel that material." Fingerprints can be found in fabric. He washed the chairs dryly with a clenched handkerchief. While working, his face took on a tremor of worry. And at last he got up and walked over and took out the fruit at the bottom of the bowl and polished them and put them back. "Better," he whispered and went back to work. Without a word, he began to polish the wall up and down, back and forth. He got one wall finished, and then he came to another wall. What time is it? He glanced at the mantel clock. An hour gone. He stared at the new, fresh wall straight ahead of him. "Those walls are all right. I won't touch them." He opened the drawer of a writing desk and took out a little magnifying glass and approached the wall uneasily. Fingerprints. "Those aren't mine. I didn't put them there. A servant, a butler, or a maid, perhaps." The wall was full of them. He swept the wall up and down, back and forth with gloved hands, sweating, grunting. He walked over and polished the fruit at the bottom of the bowl. In the dining room, he polished the floor wildly, and got up and walked over and polished the fruit at the bottom of the bowl, and washed the body and the doorknobs and the silverware, and found the whole banister and followed the banister upstairs. 3 o'clock, everywhere with the fierce mechanical intensity clocks tick. He yanked furniture away from all, sobbing, staggered, and followed the banister up the stairs, polishing, rubbing, because if he left one little print, it would reproduce to make 1,000,000 more. They found him at 6 o'clock that morning. Everything glittered. Everything shone. Everything was bright. He was in the attic polishing the old trunks and the dusty Civil War coins when the police officer walked up behind him with a gun. Done! On the way out of the house, William Acton polished the front doorknob with his handkerchief and slammed it in triumph.